Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us for Ask Evelyn live on Wednesdays at 11:30. I'm sorry I'm a minute late. We are on episode 21. I can't believe it. I'm so glad that you guys were all able to join us. So here on Ask Evelyn, we answer your questions about garbage, recycling, compost, and other trashy topics. And I am Becca Fong, and I do residential outreach for Seattle Public Utilities, and I'm really excited to be here with you like we are every week. So as a really quick reminder, this show runs on your questions. So please send them to us. We love hearing from you guys. Put them in the comments of this show. Send them to us either by Facebook or Twitter as well, or you can send them through an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. So every week what we do is we answer a couple of listener questions, and then we also introduce our weekly waste challenge. We had one for last week, celebrating the bounty of summer. And we are going to have our final challenge for dealing with the summer bounty this week. And we will report in how we did, and we'll take it from there. So I'm going to add in my lovely, and hopefully he comes on here in a second. So again, thank you guys so much. We've got a really good show for you, and we just appreciate you tuning in every week with us. All right. Hi, Pat.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. You have got a fantastic view going on back there.
I know, look at that, you guys. How about that, huh?
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is so great. So thanks for joining us. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Pat Kaufman. I'm the recycling program manager for commercial recycling in Seattle for Seattle Public Utilities. I do help businesses recycle and compost, so happy to be here. Thanks.
All right, awesome. So Pat, we've got some really great questions, and as always, we missed you last week, but we had Angela join us, and I know that you got to watch the show. So that was really good, and I hope that you got a little bit of a break.
It was a great show. Good job. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but that was great. Angela was terrific, and you hold down the fort, Becca. Good work.
It was super fun. So,
yeah.
All right. So you're going to kick us off with question 1 for the week.
Yeah. So question 1 comes to us from Jose. I have a few expired prescriptions, mostly full bottle of Advil, half a bottle of multivitamins. Is there a special way to get rid of these items? So thanks, Jose. It's a good question. And, you know, medication recycling or collection is a very good program we have here in King County in Washington. So in the city of Seattle, there are multiple locations where you can take back your medicines. I think the focus on the Take Back program is all about medical medicine. The vitamins and the supplements, those are not accepted in the program, but you can take those back to so many participating pharmacies across the city. Many of the chain drugstore companies provide the collection. A lot of independent pharmacies and drugstores also provide the collection. It's a great option.
Absolutely. So what's really great about the program's called Secure Medicine Return. So you can look, we'll have a link to the website in the show notes of this. And what's really great is it's for the county, and it's such an important topic too, because medications that get into the wrong hands and or are disposed of improperly are pretty dangerous. So we don't want people taking medications that are not theirs. And we also don't want medications that end up in the environment. So this program really takes care of both of those. So yeah, like you were saying, there's, you know, a lot of different places, and we'll put a direct link to the locations for where you can take that stuff back. So,
unlike food, it's like, I would say, you know, what do I do? Well, eat it up. So this is different. This is the one where when you're done, you're done. When you're healed, you're healed. When you're moving on, whatever the status is, or if it was a loved one or a family member or something like that, and it's no longer needed, they've gotten well again and they're better. These are the kinds of things where you want to, you don't want to just leave them in the medicine cabinet forever and ever. That's just a future potential hazard, whether it's with children or teenagers or whatever. So the reality is that a lot of these medications, they're not safe when they're not in the hands or in the process of the sort of, the medical profession's prescription,
Right.
So if it's not clinically in use, then they should just be taken back to the drugstore where they can be properly managed and recycled, basically.
Absolutely. So I have a couple of examples because, there's a whole comprehensive list on the Secure Medicine Return website. So the thing you kind of think of are the ubiquitous, and we can also talk about the containers as well.
Right.
When you think of the medications that are prescriptions, they will take back all of these. So you can go to some of the drop-off locations, Pat, like you were saying, QFC and CVS pharmacies participate. I know wholesale, some of the independents, like you mentioned, again, on the website, it'll have all of the hours to see what has potentially changed during COVID. But anything that comes in these prescription vials, they will take. They will. So Jose also had some Advil. So like I didn't have Advil, but I've got some expired aspirin. They'll take this as well. So you can take that back, which is fantastic. And it's completely free. I'm sorry, we should have mentioned that at the top. It is completely a free service. For those of you who either do not feel comfortable going out or have people in your family who have medications that they would like to get rid of that cannot leave their homes, they also offer a mail-in option. So you go on the website, order a mail envelope, they will send it to you. You can put the medications in the envelope and send it back to them, which is fantastic. It's a really good
great
system.
Service. For a lot of people are, not necessarily homebound, but just like don't want to make extra trips and stuff. So it's a really handy way to kind of have it, leave the house and you're done with it then. But back to the vitamins and supplements. I mean, it's just there's so many of those products, right? I mean, this is like a couple solid aisles at the drugstore of these things. And in this situation, maybe you can use them up. Maybe there is a family or friend that can, because this isn't, obviously overdosage of anything is going to be a problem or be harmful. But, and that's where you do want to keep them away from kids and you want to keep them in a secure place at home and all those safe, precautionary kind of, options at home. But this is the kind of product where the best thing for them, if you're done with them and you don't have another option, then you just put them in a baggie, ideally seal them up in a bag and put them in the garbage, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, I have the best of intentions when I take supplements. I'm sure everybody else out there is way better on following through on all of those efforts than I am. But, sometimes you do end up with like too much vitamin C and it's maybe, several years old, so those intentions were really not realized. And so you will definitely. So I can put these in a bag, tie them off, put them in the garbage. We want to make sure people know for anything, supplements, vitamins, medications, never, ever, ever put them in the toilet. One, you don't want to put weird stuff in your toilet anyway. It'll just clog it. But you also don't want that going into the environment as well. So
not in the compost bin either. Even if it's something you eat as a vitamin or, a supplement, it may say, made from plants or whatever the product is, does not matter. That is not food. That is not an item that we accept in the compost program. So, these things are garbage if they're no longer usable.
Absolutely. So Pat, you want to take us through what to do with the containers. So what about this one? What's my for getting rid of that?
Well, these are the indication of the orange, that orange vial. We refer to a pill bottle versus a prescription vial. Those are sort of the two terms we use. So prescription vials are not recyclable. We do not want those containers, regardless of the triangle and the number at the bottom. Does not matter what it says. These are the items that are, oftentimes these are very small vials too. Sometimes they're bigger.
This is a big one. Yeah, but they're usually really little.
Right. So really, these are things we just don't know which plastic it's going to be necessarily, and it's just not a material that is commonly accepted for recycling. You get into the pill bottle category, like the ibuprofen or something like that. Yeah, that's the same kind of plastic as what would be, cleanser or soap or something like that. Yeah, or some sort of a food, even yogurt or something, right? So, but yeah, it's totally those white plastic bottles, pill bottles, those are fine. Prescription vials, not. And on the pill bottle, on those ones, the dark brown ones, those are okay as long as they're the larger ones. Again, we have the 3-inch diameter rule. If it's one of those little tiny pill bottles that maybe I don't know what would come in it, but like some little tiny pill. Those we would not want. There's a 3-inch diameter rule as well to kind of keep in mind, because it has to be of a certain size for the sorting machines and the sorting staff to kind of interact with it on the conveyor belt. So not the little tiny things.
Okay. No, I think that's really good. And it is interesting because I know that with these orange vials, it's good to just ignore this triangle symbol. This is not helpful. This one does say, number 5, but these tend to be really brittle. So that's another reason we don't take them. Even though this one's larger than most, we don't want to take these. These can go in the garbage. And then this one, when I looked again, we don't want to encourage you to look at the triangle on the bottom, but this is PET, right? And this is an HDPE, bottle. So these things, empty them out, put them in your recycle bin. Same with this one too. These are all larger than 3 inches.
Especially the
So
big ones, the big
yeah,
tubs. I mean, those are great. We love seeing those. Those are some good plastic volume. The small ones are good too. The big ones are really going to hold their own on the conveyor belt, and they're going to be easier to sort. The smaller they get, the harder it is to sort, and then sometimes it ends up being a pass-through item, and it ends up being a contaminant in another bale. Like it'll go in with a mixed paper, it'll go in with something else, and we really want it. That's why the size, 3-inch diameter is the guideline, because it gets too small to manipulate on and off of the belt.
totally. All right. So Jose, that was an awesome question.
Yeah,
So for your
good stuff.
medications, both prescription and over the counter, please look at Secure Medicine Return. You
Right.
have a mail-in option as well as a drop-off option. For your vitamins and supplements, you can go ahead and bag those and put them in the garbage and then recycle the containers as long as they're over 3 inches. For your I believe when you take your medications back to Secure Medicine Return, they will deal with the vials as well, because
Oh
I'm sure
yeah,
they want to know
give them the
what
whole
is in
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Just give them the
also,
whole thing.
that's also like when you get the envelope, the self-mail
Right.
envelope, you put the whole bottle in there. You don't
Yeah.
pour the pills in, you just put
No,
yeah.
put them all in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So awesome question. And I mean, you saw all the examples that I had. I was kind of going through things at my house. It's like, it's something that we encounter not often, but it's definitely important to do the right thing with it when you're ready to be done with it. So
Yeah, good job on the props, Becca. I don't have any here right now. So,
well, you're just more efficient. Like I said, I'm the minority. I'm the one that, has all these great intentions with all of these supplements. I don't necessarily go through with them all, but all right. So we have another really good question. And actually this one came in from a dear friend of mine. So she said, "Dear Evelyn, I have a big fluorescent light fixture with 4 large tubes.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking this is like a 4-foot shop light."
Right.
So
right.
she said, "The light doesn't work anymore. So I just need to get rid of it. What do I do?" And this is from Mary. So thanks, Mary. I appreciate it. I'm always happy to answer people's questions. So I think there's a couple of things to think about. There's the fixture itself, and then there's the light bulbs, right?
Yeah.
And so for the fixture, it was a large 4-foot metal shop fixture. It's mostly metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of too big to go into your recycle cart. And Pat, you kind of mentioned that it can be, why don't we want something that large? It fits in the cart, but
Well, so you got to think, again, going back to the conveyor belt, right? I mean, it really is great for people to think about the recycle center and how things kind of get scooped up onto the conveyor, come down the line, and you have all the staff at the recycle center doing their thing. And you don't want any sharp edges. You don't want some long, funky shaped thing that's going to catch on something and flip around, or, the conveyor belt's moving. I mean, it's a
right.
moving machine. So, we say yes to pots and pans. We say yes to pie tins and things that are sort of tumble along easily and safely on the conveyor belt. So a big lamp fixture, like a shop lamp with a big wide 4-foot long, sharp cornered kind of metal, very recyclable metal.
Sure.
Very much want to see it get recycled, but not via the blue cart and collection. It would be better to self-haul that to the transfer station or to one of the independent metal recycling companies in Seattle.
Absolutely. So both the North and South Transfer Station, it's free to recycle metal. At the North Transfer Station, you can drive through to the recycle and reuse building and just drop it off into the metal bin. It would be great if you could cut the cord off, because it's really looking for just the metal. If your fixture has like plastic or other pieces that are not metal, if you could take those off, that's fantastic. So with her example, it was just a metal reflector with a cord and a chain. And so I told her, go ahead, self-haul that to the transfer station. And then there is dealing with the bulbs. So the bulbs are burnt out, they're intact. And what's really great on last week's show, when Angela talked to us about extended producer responsibility for paint, where the producers of a product are responsible for dealing with that product at the end of the life. So light bulbs are a really good example. Mm-hmm. We introduced the product stewardship website last week, and there are all kinds of really great resources on there of the different types of commodities that are part of extended producer responsibility, or EPR.
Sure.
So in our state, it's Light Recycle. And so you'll go to lightrecycle.org and it'll give you a whole list of locations that you can take it to. For her, she ended up going to Stoneway Hardware because they would take the long tubes, because you were saying, Pat, that not everybody takes those.
Yeah, some of the stores, they pick and choose what they want to partner on for collection, because those tubes are kind of lanky and they're kind of hard to manage in storage for recycling and such. Of course, the cost for the recycling collection is all taken care of by the manufacturers of light bulbs. But Yeah, some stores. So when you go to the lightrecycle.org website, you'll see some stores will be listed for the small compact fluorescents, and some are listed for both those and the long tube type bulbs as well.
And what's great about the cost being absorbed by the manufacturer, that's built in when you purchase the product.
Right.
And so
right.
when you bring it back, there's no cost for you to drop them off. It's really important that you make sure that those tubes, which are incredibly fragile, they remain intact, because those tubes have mercury in them, which you do not want to be breathing and you do not want to be handling. If you do have a broken bulb, you can sweep it up, try to open some windows, sweep it
Yes.
up and get rid of it, bag it up and get rid of it as quickly as possible. But that's worst case scenario. Gently handle your bulbs, find a location to take them. It is completely free to drop them off, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
yeah. These are great programs. I mean, the first one that maybe folks remember that was significant in the state is the E-Cycle Washington program, where television sets and computer monitors and laptops, all these sort of TV and computer large elements of those devices are accepted for free to be recycled. And again, same model, EPR, where all the manufacturers of TVs and computers kind of tally up all the quantities that they sell in a given year, and then the next year they pay that percentage of what the cost is for the recycle program. So it's kind of an agreed upon by industry, legislated by the state, and it's a great independent collection program, which many stores and thrift centers will partner in those programs, because the collection service providers actually get paid a small fee as well for managing the collection effort. So it's a great way, because these are often, when you think about the EPR programs that exist, the bulbs, the computers, things like that, the car batteries or tires, right. These are like things that have laden with harmful materials, or made sure. with certain products and contents and elements that are not going to be good for the environment, not just good to toss into a typical landfill.
Yeah, so, special handling.
Yeah, and in other places around the world, and even up north of us in Vancouver, BC, they have an EPR program just for recyclables. I mean, they really kind of are. Absolutely. They're starting to take that model of like, look, I wanted the product, I wanted the service the product gave me, not the actual physical item. So when a light bulb goes out, you wanted the light, you didn't really want the bulb, right? So right. Let's get the manufacturer to take the bulb back.
Yeah, because it's not our responsibility; it's the manufacturer's responsibility, which is it's a great thing that not a lot of folks are aware of and is happening in the background. That's something that us as individuals can support. If you go to the Product Stewardship website, you can see those different commodities that require special handling. And it's really important that those things are handled in a very responsible way. You can, talk with your legislature about, hey, I really support this legislation, and I think it's really important. And when they hear from you, I gotta tell you, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So we will definitely be talking more about EPR on this show and product stewardship. So, and if you guys have questions about that, please feel free. We would be happy to nerd out with you about that.
Well said.
So just to summarize really quickly, so Mary had this shop light, mainly metal. The best thing to do with that is to self-haul it to one of our transfer stations or the metal recyclers, completely free. Right. Remove as many of the non-metal parts as possible. And then for the bulbs, make sure that they are intact. Go to lightrecycle.org and you will find so many places in Seattle that will take those back for free. So
terrific.
Really good question. All right. So now we're at the part of our show where we talk about last week's weekly waste challenge. So our weekly waste challenge is a new tip or trick that we pick every week and report back on how we do. And we would love to hear back how you guys are doing if you guys are trying these out with us, because while Pat and I are, dyed in the wool waste nerds and waste prevention nerds, we can always learn new things. So
absolutely,
these little challenges are just ways to kind of bring new ideas to light of like, how can we try this? And also to acknowledge that changing your behavior is hard. So we're here to do it with you. So this month we've been talking about how to deal with summer's bounty, right? Whether you're growing your own garden or you're shopping at the farmer's market, or you're just seeing an abundance of produce at your local grocery store, right? Because that's just how it works. Apples come into season, carrots come into season, there's a ton of chard and fruit. How do you deal with that? How do you capitalize on that and not produce a whole bunch of food waste? So last week's challenge we introduced was reimagining a leftover in your fridge. So Pat and I are pretty good about leftovers, but Pat, do you want to kick us off about?
Well, I do. I watched the show and I accept the challenge. And so So similar to, I mean, what typical in my household is I'm primarily the leftover eater, I just am the one. But oftentimes, I'll get to kind of build something out. So it was, having a little bit of leftover cheese, grated cheese from a nacho effort or something like that earlier. So just putting that in with a salad, taking a hard-boiled egg, taking an egg and hard-boiling it. So just making a sort of a Cobb salad out of some small little bits that I had left. Maybe a couple strips of bacon left, just kind of throwing that together and making a quick salad. That's kind of my go-to, is like anything on greens can usually, pass my test of cuisine, requirements. And it's really a question of like making sure when you're done with your meal, if you're not going to finish your meal, then getting it back in the fridge, making sure it's chilled and cooled and ready for another meal. It really annoys me sometimes when you finish dinner or whatever and it's left out, and then 30 minutes later it's still out. Well, that's not good. You've just like, that's too far gone.
I don't know what you're talking about, Pat. That never happens at my house.
So what did you do? What was your challenge response for the week?
So similarly, I love like shopping your fridge for what's left over. I think that's great. It's a great approach, right? And for a lot of times you'll have just like a little bit of cheese left, like maybe a quarter cup of it. You don't want to waste that. You're going to want to put it to use. So I kind of had two things. One thing I deemed breakfast surprise. One morning I was looking in the fridge and I just like could not imagine. I didn't want to eat another bowl of cereal or oatmeal. And I also didn't want to really cook anything. And so I looked in and found all those little odds and ends in the fridge. And what I ended up with for my breakfast surprise that day was some leftover rice, like maybe 5 roasted carrots, some baked beans poured all over the top, and then I fried an egg to go on top of it. And let me tell you, it was fantastic.
That sounds good.
It was so good. It was so good. My family's like, what are you eating? I was like, it's breakfast surprise, people. And I think the biggest part of that is kind of reframing what a breakfast meal could look like, right? It kind of helped bust me out of my rut, and then also fed into my laziness of not wanting to cook something, and prevented more food waste, because it was really just little odds and ends. Like, it was enough for a quarter of a portion of each of those things.
Like a total omelet scramble thing. Yeah. Maybe maybe take a tortilla and just throw it in there and then wrap it up. That'd be another, if you're on the go, right?
It was really good. And then one other thing after I had breakfast surprise was last Friday, we were going through and we saw all these little things. Again, like little portions, a little bit more than what went into my breakfast surprise. And my kid was like, hey, let's have an appetizer dinner. Like, let's look at all those little things, because they're not really big on leftovers, but like when it was suddenly framed as like appetizers for dinner, it was really fun. And then everyone could sample just little bits. It was kind of like tapas, and it was fantastic. And it didn't matter that they were all kinds of different tastes, and everyone just had a little bit. So
I'm all for that. I love that. Yeah.
It was like so great, because my fridge didn't look like a disaster, and we ate all that food. And everybody got to try something else, and it was stuff we had eaten earlier in the week. And so it was awesome. I'm all for appetizer dinner Friday. So.
And for like, if it's been a hot day, it's been a long, hot day, you don't want to cook. You don't want to start the oven up. You don't want to do cooked. It's just a bunch of stuff out of the fridge, like a couple olives, maybe a pickle, maybe some hummus. I mean, just kind of cover the cutting board with all kinds of stuff and just dip and dab.
Yeah, totally. It was awesome. So I hope that inspires you and Pat. Totally. Like, just put something on some salad and it's going to be delicious. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. Oh, next week's Waste Challenge. Sorry, folks. So it will be our last week. For our last week, we are going to talk about meal planning. So again, in addition to wanting to take all of my supplements, I often have this aspirational goal of meal planning. So I'm excited to have the weekly waste challenge kind of nudge me more in this direction. So we're going to look at meal planning for the week, and we're going to focus, of course, on waste prevention. So buying just what you need. Yeah. And then also trying to support local. So whatever that means, whether it's shopping local, going hyper local in your garden, we'll report back on how we do that.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. I like this challenge. This is good.
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, this is like, I feel like a lifelong goal. I've been like, meal planning. Yeah, that's really great.
I mean, the time of COVID has been terrible, but it's also given people time to pause and think about stuff like this. So this will be good. I think this will be a good topic.
Yeah. So we'll report back to you next week. And please, if any of you guys have meal planning tips and are just killing it and have some tips for Pat and I, we would love to hear about those. So, well, that's our show for the week. So thank you guys so much. That has been a fantastic episode of Ask Evelyn. Thank you all for all who have joined us. And remember to send us your questions because the show is powered by your questions. So, and if you can, tell one person about us. We love to see more folks joining us and being part of the conversation. So we will see you next Wednesday at 11:30 for some more trash talk. And we hope that you find that this is useful advice from your utility. And with that, I'm Becca Fong, and remember, life's simpler with less stuff.
And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to recycle right. See you next week.
All right. Take care, all.
See ya. Bye.